Chapter 5 Sweethearts and Bulldogs. 12 hours later, Cosmo was back down Bushka, this time in the back of the pigmobile with the other Supernaturalists. Mona parked in the shadow of a corrugated sheet metal awning opposite the Sweethearts' headquarters, an abandoned police station inside the blockade. Outside, everything was locked down for the night, and the streets were deserted, apart from roving groups of youths and homeless wanderers. Stefan, for his part, was not happy about the situation. The parasites can be wrong. We could be wasting this entire night. There were too many, Stefan, responded Mona. One could be a mistake, but the creatures were waiting for a major disaster. Miguel said the sweethearts were breaking out the Maishi Z-12 tonight. They're bound to win, and the other gangs are going to go ballistic. Stefan shrugged. The gangs are always going ballistic. Mona's eyes flashed. Those guys were my family for a long time, Stefan. You have to look out for your family. You should understand that. Okay, said Stefan grudgingly. We tell them for a couple of hours, but then we're back on the computer. Thanks, Stefan. Ditto turned away from the window. Alright, everybody, we're on! The Sweethearts were leaving the police station's underground parking lot in a parade of souped-up Kroms, led by Miguel in a heavily camouflaged Maishi Z-12. There she is, said Mona. The price of my freedom. Cosmo rubbed the people through the dirty window. Doesn't look like much. Mona started the pigmobile's engine. It was surprisingly quiet, in spite of its size. That's the clever part. If the Sweethearts arrived with the Maishi Z-12, nobody would bet against them. This way, they stand to make more money. She pulled onto the road, staying well behind the Sweetheart convoy. You know, you never did tell me the story of how you got that car, Stefan. Stefan grinned. I liberated it from the Maishi Experimental Division. They were testing a couple, and one didn't make the curve. Ran straight into a fuel dump. I followed the swarm of parasites into the facility and started blasting. The lawyers got a bit close to me, so I took the other car. That thing's amazing, Mona. Years ahead of the competition. It's even got wing slots if you want to upgrade. It really pained me to part with it. Mona thumped him on the chest, a fond gesture for her. Okay, Stefan, thank you. How many times do you want me to say it? Another couple of thousand should do it. The Sweethearts paraded down the avenue, honking personalized horns to wake up the street. Soon crowds of people were gathered on the balconies, fluttering bandanas. Miguel waved royally out of his window. Mona hung back in the pigmobile until they had cleared Red Square. The convoy swung east. Okay, east. That's Bulldog country. They're racing in the old Chrome factory. Ditto typed this information into the onboard computer, and in seconds, the warehouse server sent back a schematic of the factory. It's perfect! If they use the assembly lines, you have 2 5-mile lanes set above solid asphalt. Access? Asked Stefan. 6 doors on the ground level, which I'll presume we won't be using. Correct. Then I'll recommend the lines of solar panels on the roof. No doubt the locals have long made off with the panels, so we should be able to climb into the upper gantry. Cosmo groaned. More rooftops? But he didn't say anything aloud. Stefan seemed to read his thoughts. Don't worry, Cosmo, he said. You did well last night. You laid down that bridge like a fireman. Not too bad with the lightning rod either, although you did hit more wall than parasites. A compliment from Stefan Bashkir? Said Mona in mock surprise. You should record that and play it back every night, because you probably won't get another one. Cosmo laughed, but Stefan's words had meant something to him. For the first time, he felt almost a part of the group. Mona squeezed the pigmobile down several narrow alleys, knocking the side mirrors flat to the doors. The Crown Factory loomed ahead, orange firelight flickering from empty panels in the roof. This must be the place, said Mona, cutting the engine. She climbed into the back. There will be at least 50 Bulldogs inside, all armed with gunpowder antiques and maybe some shrink wrappers or shockers. My guess is there's going to be some kind of accident. Either that or a gang fight. Stefan nodded. Okay, we don't get involved until whatever is going to happen happens. Then we take care of our spirit friends. Mona didn't like the plan. Shouldn't we try to break up the whole thing? Prevent a disaster? No, we can't tell the future. Maybe when we try to break things up, we actually cause the disaster. It made sense, even if Mona wasn't happy about it. Stefan put a hand on her shoulder. Are you okay, Mona? Will you be able to do the job? Mona snapped the power cell into her lightning rod. Don't worry about me, Stefan. I know what we came here for. Good. We go up to the fire escape, through the roof, and onto the gantry inside. Stay sharp. The gangs could have blown some brains and posted sentries on the roof. Ditto velcroed the first aid kit to his chest. And pigs will fly. The alley was so narrow that they had to disembark from the rear of the pigmobile, then climb over the roof to reach the chrome fire escape. The sounds of roaring engines and cheering were only slightly dulled by the factory walls. The fire escape's bottom rung was a meter above Stefan's reach. Rather than deploy a ladder, he grabbed Ditto by the belt. Ready? Ditto nodded. Going up! Stefan hefted the tiny man-boy straight up until he could grab the bottom rung. His weight dragged the fire escape ladder to ground level. They climbed one by one, with Stefan taking up the rear. If anyone was likely to break a rung, it was the tall youth. The fire escape bore their weight, and minutes later, the Supernaturalists were face down on the gently sloped roof, peering below the empty solar panel frame. Stretched out below them were the cannibalized remains of a megafactory that had once employed more than 20,000 satellite city residents. The raised assembly lanes were bolstered by welded lanes of girder. Builder androids had been stripped of any useful components and hung limply in their cradles like robot skeletons. Complicated-looking overhead gantries and magnetic monorail systems hung in the air, with hooks, clamps, and lighting rigs draped across them like mechanical jewelry. The Bulldogs and the Sweethearts were facing off in a classic tribal fashion, at least the hungry gang members posturing out around their vehicles, chests out, chins up, and sucking in their guts. The vehicles themselves were the automobile equivalent of peacock's tails, huge spoilers inset with digitized graphics, old-fashioned rubber tires, and hoods stripped away to reveal throbbing engines. Only the Maishi Z12 was unadorned, a panther at rest. The racing had already begun. 2 cars at a time were ramped onto the assembly line, burning down the 5-mile strip in an afterburn of gasoline and nitrous. The rules were simple. An electrified gate sat on each lane. When that gate was lifted, the driver put his foot down. Too late, and the race was over. Too early, and the gate's charge would blow car and driver clean off the track. First past the post took the honors and the winner's purse. The Supernaturalists weren't the only beings in the upper regions. Several dozen parasites clung spider-like to the infrastructure, dropping down to suck a few drops of life force from any injured drivers. As always, they were oblivious to the group's attention. Cosmo drew his lightning rod. Wait, instructed Stefan. This is not the main event. You don't get this many parasites for a few minor injuries. We have to hold back until something big happens. Stefan's fingers were twitching over his own lightning rod. It was obvious that allowing the parasites to steal even one drop of life essence was killing him. Sometimes leaders have to make tough choices, Cosmo thought. Ditto studied the altimeter on his watch. We're at least 200 feet off the ground here. If something does happen, I'm not going to be able to help anybody. And the only reason I'm here is to kill people. You know how I feel about the pet blasting parasites. So if I'm not allowed to heal, I might as well go back to the old job. It pays better, and I don't have to put up with your teenage mutes. Stefan's gaze could have drilled holes in titanium. Ditto, now is not the time. Ditto glared right back. Not the time? Now we only save lives when you say so? Well, if I'd known that, I would have stayed home in our palace and had a few beers. Stefan ground his teeth, both in frustration and to stop himself from smiling. Tito, one of these days, I'm going to send you up for kindergarten. I swear. Okay, take Mona. Get down near ground level. No risk, though. These are not These are not the type of people we generally deal with. These are armed killers. If you can help them, then help someone, then help them. But my advice is to tranquilize them first. And wear your first plates. You never know. Ditto grinned. Stefan, you're a sweetheart. The Bartoli baby trotted down a connecting stairwell, as sure-footed as a mountain goat. Mona ran after him, swearing in Spanish. They made their way across pipes and down rails until they straddled a cable conduit directly above the assembly line. In the event of a disaster, it would be a simple matter to lay a bridge to ground level. Stefan followed their progress through field glasses. They're safe. Cosmo lay beside him on the gantry. Should we go down with her? Them? Stefan kept his eyes on the scene below. A bit of advice, Cosmo. Don't get too attached to Mona. She is the best spotter I've ever seen, but someday she'll move on. And to answer your question, we can cover them from here. If they get in trouble, we can create a diversion, draw fire away. Cosmo sighed. Drawing fire sounded even more dangerous than everything else they had done thus far. Stefan misinterpreted the sigh. Don't worry about the kid, he said, rapping Cosmo playfully on his robotics plate. I don't suppose they teach military tactics in Clarissa Frayne. The rap reminded Cosmo that parts of his body were not the originals. How much had changed in a week? New knee, new forehead, new friends, new life. Cosmo gained the 100 armed gang members. New life. For how long? Ditto balanced easily on the cable conduits. He was a natural gymnast, in spite of his size. Maybe he got used to your body when it hadn't changed in decades. So, you like the kid, he said, in a teasing tone that belied his angelic face. Your little Chico. Yeah, sure. I like Cosmo. He's a good kid. He learns fast. Mona lay flat on the conduit, scanning the crowd below her for Miguel. If she had a chance to save anyone, it would be Miguel. He'd take her in off the street when a couple of his boys had caught her trying a little bushka on the Sweetheart Auto. Instead of punishing her, Miguel had put her to work. Ditto chuckled. He's a good kid. Come on, Vasquez. It's me you're talking to. You've been marginally less grumpy since he got here. Company, okay? It's nice to have someone my own age around the Abracadabra Street. Ditto kept on needling. It's not as if he's handsome. No hair yet to speak of, and that forehead looks like he's got a porcupine hiding underneath that. Well, at least he's tall, said Mona pointedly. Look who's getting defensive. Do I sense a crack in the Vasquez armor? Mona would never admit to the Bartoli baby, but in a way, he was right. The orphan kid was interesting. He had made quite an entrance into their lives as he lay smoking on the rooftop. Then he had gone on to save her life. After that, he would have to have the personality of a hungry bear for her not to like him. He's just a friend, that's all. Maybe that concept is too big for you to understand. Ditto grinned, delighted that his needling was having an effect. Oh, big jokes now, is it? I may be small, Vasquez, but I'll have more brains in my undersized head than the rest of the Supernaturalists put together. Mona pointed her lightning rod at her pint-sized companion. Stop annoying me, Ditto. Do you think I wouldn't gumball you? Is that what you think? Because if it is, you're mistaken. Ditto raised his pumps. Threats of violence? I didn't realize how serious this has become. So quick, too. Who would have guessed it? He paused, smiling genuinely. Seriously, though, he's okay, that Cosmo kid. I'm glad you found a friend. Mona tutted. You'll make him sound like a puppy. I'm trying to be serious. You're young, Mona, a teenager. You need somebody to talk to. I may not look like it, but I'm too old. And Stefan, well, most of the time, he's on the move for talking. Ditto's phone vibrated in his pocket. Text from above, he said, reading the screen. What are you two playing at? Keep your mouth shut and your eyes open. The Bartoli baby waved in Stefan's general direction. You better keep your mind on the job, Mona, or I may have to pull rank. Mona grinned. You know something? If you weren't 3 feet high... 3 feet 2, said Ditto, pouting. On the factory floor beneath them, things were heating up. The minor races had been run, and now the prize cars were being ramped to the assembly line. The Bulldogs were gathered around a six-wheel Charger, hooting and loosing shocker charges into the air. The Chargers had wide-profile tires, plasma decals, and twin double exhaust pipes vibrating at its tail. Like the Bulldogs themselves, the car was loud and rippling with muscle. The Bulldogs were obsessed with appearance. The victors in tonight's drag race will probably use their wings to have some saline muscle sacs under their skin. The Maishi Razor was tame in comparison. Its bodywork was retrospectively curved. A single exhaust pipe poked from beneath the rear bumper, and there were only 4 wheels. Ridiculous. The Bulldogs were not impressed. They howled at the roof, their trademark method of expressing derision. Mona rolled her eyes. Bulldogs. Nature's leftovers. Mona was not as calm as she sounded. Whatever was going to happen would happen soon. Soon. Death was gathering in the very oxygen. The parasites could feel it too, and they clustered ever lower on the factory walls. Ditto's phone vibrated again. Another text, he groaned. What does Stefan think? I'm his secretary? He pulled the phone from his pocket, reading the message. You better read this, he said in strangled tones. Mona reached for the phone, keeping one eye on the scene below. The letters stood out black against the green screen. Pigs have flown, said the text. The Bulldogs posted a sentry. He's right behind you. Mona heard a power cell charging beside her ear. Cosmo jumped to his feet. We have to help them! Stefan grabbed him by the lapels, dragging him back down. Get down, Cosmo. You're making a nice target of yourself. But they'll be killed! Protested Cosmo. Stefan rolled over, clapping a hand on Cosmo's arm. Listen to me carefully, Cosmo. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for the past 3 years. You've spent your entire life in an orphanage. All you know about combat missions could be written on Ditto's underpants. You get the idea? Cosmo nodded. Good. We watch and we see how this develops. Mona and Ditto may have some ideas of their own. He removed his hand. Cosmo drew a shaky breath. What if they shoot them? Stefan turned his gaze to the scene below. He was blinking rapidly, and his hands were clamped around the walkway bars. He was not as in control as he pretended. If they shoot them, then they pay. Maybe, thought Cosmo, but not as much as we do. The Bulldog sentry was naked except for black shorts, and his skin was dark, unnaturally so. Ditto realized, after several seconds' scrutiny, that the man's skin had been almost completely tattooed. Initially, he couldn't see anything in the ink, but then strange hypnotic swirls and patterns suggested themselves. Lock it? Asked the sentry. For body coverage, which are making hypno patterns on 399 dinars and the ink blot tattoo pattern. Ask for Sasha. Wow, said Ditto. The patterns were all over. How had he missed them before? Mona snapped her fingers before his eyes. Don't look at the ink, estupido. Hypno patterns will zone you out. It's true, said the sentry. I had a cab driver once, staring at me in the mirror. He fell asleep at the wheel. He pointed the nozzle of his weapon at Mona. Now to business. On your feet. You just have time to make your last appointment. Ditto opened his mouth to pass comment. Mona clamped a hand over it. No problem, amigo. Lead the way. The tattooed sentry prodded them down a steep stairwell to the factory floor. The other Bulldogs seemed a lot taller close up. They jostled the intruders, brandishing weapons and baying for their blood. The leader stepped forward. He could tell there was the leader because the words "head honcho" flashed across his bare chest and some continuous lightning. What did we find, Shadow? He growled, his metallic mohawk quivering on his skull. And head honcho actually did growl. He probably had surgery on his vocal cords to achieve the effect. Shadow pushed his little prizes into the ring. 2 mods hanging in the rafters. Head honcho sized and chews up. Okay, Strap them on the bonnets. They'll make nice hood ornaments. Dozens of hands grab the pair, pushing them roughly overhead. Wait, said Miguel, blocking the Bulldog's path. Nothing gets strapped on my hood, Honcho. This machine is aerodynamic. Bumps like that will mess with your speed. Comprende? Mona glared down at him from a sea of arms. Thanks a bunch, Miguel. And I thought you cared. Honcho's brain gears ground noisily, making the connection. You know this kid? Miguel sighed deeply. Another night fouled up. Yes, sure. She's my little sister. I told her to stay home, but she likes the races. In the blood, I guess. Do me a favor and cut her loose. Head Honcho's chest lights flashed faster, racing with his heartbeat. I don't know, mate. Rules are rules. Miguel persisted. Come on, hombre. I can't go home without the Mia. Why not, mate? Teenagers are just a waste of space and air. True, but this girl is one of the best drivers we have. Almost as good as me. Be ashamed to release all the driving hours we invested. In a couple of years, she'll be burning up the strip. A nasty smile spread across Honcho's face. His steel mohawk vibrated as he laughed. Okay, mate. I got a deal for you. The girl drives the last race. Que no! Protested Miguel. No way! That girl is my baby! It's your call, mate. Either she's in the car or she's on it. Mona could drive or fix just about anything with wheels, but this was a nitrous racer, not the Pigmobile. Generally, drag racers fed a nitrous oxide mixture into the regular fuel for that extra burst of speed when it was needed. But this thing actually used heated nitrous oxide as the regular fuel. And because nitrous was used up so quickly, the entire car had been converted into a fuel tank. Every strut and panel was filled with the explosive mixture. Nobody really knew how to drive a car like this. Miguel leaned in the window. Tell Stefan he owes me a big favor. Tell him yourself, retorted Mona. In 10 seconds, I'm going to be a carbon stain on the asphalt. Let the nitrous do the work. Standard pedals, but brake early. This car is a terror to stop. You lose this one, Vasquez, and you better leave town in shame. Honcho sounded his horn impatiently. A couple of questions, said Miguel. Where is Stefan, and why are you here? Mona placed a hand on his arm. When it happens, you'll know. Just keep your head down and get ready to run. Miguel settled his bandana gangster style. We're sweethearts, baby! We never run! And with a tough guy rejoinder, he was gone, down to the factory floor with his boys. Ditto's phone vibrated. He slipped it out surreptitiously. On the screen was a single question mark. Ditto composed a return message. Stay put, was his response. Everything under control. Mona craned her neck to read the text. Under control? Let me know when we're in trouble. The gates were lowered on chrome robot arms, powered by a portable generator. One sparking grill settled in front of each car. Honcho was howling now. The digi-cows on his fender showed running, slobbering bulldogs. The other bulldogs took up his canine call, until the entire factory echoed with the yelp of deranged gangbangers. I don't know which is healthier, said Ditto. Winning or losing. Mona pressed the ignition button, revving the car in neutral. I'm not waiting around to find out. Ditto gripped the dash nervously. Don't do anything foolish, Mona. I'm just a baby. Just hold on and buckle up. The gates rose slowly, cascading sparks in the audience below. Honcho was punching the roof of his car, denting the paneling. If he got any more excited, he might just short out his bulbs. Mona shifted into first gear. The manual gearbox would have been added in by the sweethearts. They were hard to be in time to shift all the way to six. She would have to skip a few gears. The Z-12 lunged forward like an eager panther. She held it in place with the clutch. There was a 3-foot wide gap between the gate and the surface now. A waterfall of dancing white sparks obscured Mona's vision. Bulldogs fired rounds into the air. The parasites were closing in, perhaps for her. Whatever was coming was on the way, as ridiculous as that sounded. The gates jerked upward another notch. Go! Screamed the sweethearts in one voice. Go! Go! Mona revved, but didn't go. Not yet. Honcho had no such reservations. He floored the accelerator and shot out under the gate. It was too soon. His rear spoiler caught the gates, but there was no explosion, no conduction of thousands of volts through his chassis. Instead, the spoiler melted into black slop, half coating the rear window. Honcho raced on. Lubber, said Mona contemptuously. That cheat! Go! Howled the sweethearts almost tearfully. Honcho was already a mile down the track and hadn't even fired his nitrous yet. Not just yet. Ditto pounded her shoulder with her tiny hands. What are you doing, Vasquez? Are you insane? 1 more second! Honcho was 2 miles gone. 2.5, doing at least 300 miles an hour. His tires were billowing black smoke. The sweethearts were converging on the car, drawing weapons from their pockets. Miguel's lips were drawn back from his teeth. Time to go, whispered Mona, dropping the accelerator and lifting the clutch. The Z-12 shot forward like Thor's hammer across the sky. The nitrous injection slammed Mona and Ditto back into their seats. If the headrests hadn't been padded, the skulls would have cracked like eggshells. Vision was distorted. Colors ran and blended. Nothing was clear except the track ahead. Mona locked her wrists, keeping the wheel steady. Everything on either side dissolved into speed trails, but ahead, the track was a solid black strip, with Honcho's Charger going ever larger in the crystal windscreen. Compared to the Z-12, Honcho's car may as well have been in reverse, though the Bulldog couldn't know it. He was already firing victory flares out his window. Check your mirror, lame brain, thought Mona. See what's coming up on you. It seemed as though Honcho did just that, because his twin exhaust pipes flared blue as he injected the nitrous into his engine. The Bulldog Charger lurched forward, and 50 miles per hour added to its speed, but it was too late. The Z-12 was an automated bullet burning down the track like lightning from the belly of a storm cloud. Amazing, said Mona, the word jittering between gritted teeth. This thing is an animal. Ditto grinned at Honcho as they cruised past, an irritating smug grin that would make anyone in the receiving end make him want to do a severe injury. Quite possibly, Honcho couldn't see the other car. Never mind the Bartoli baby's grinning head. But it made Ditto feel better. They flashed across the finish line, activating victory fireworks. 5 miles in under a minute. The factory wall loomed large before them. You forgot to brake! Shouted Ditto over the engine's roll. Your old boyfriend said to brake early! Mona floored the accelerator, heading for the sonic boom. He's not my old boyfriend. And do you really want to stop for a chat with Honcho? Ideally, no. But what choice do we have? We can go through the gate. Ditto held his nose and blew until his ears popped, just in case the pressure was interfering with his heating. Go through that! Are you completely insane? Think about it. We go off the end of the ramp at only 300. The gate is only polymer. The car is toughened alloy. We have a good chance of making it. There must be another way. I'm all ears. You have 3 seconds. Mona, don't make me hit you. If you have your sledgehammer in your pocket, I'll start worrying. Dodo adopted the crash position, head between legs. We're dead, he muttered. The pig iron wall loomed before them, seconds away. A speeding procession of gang idols raced up the factory floor. Overhead, the parasites scurried to come close to the ground level, and there was one more factor, something no one could have anticipated, something rarely see in the bushka. Paralegals. The Z-12 cut out. What? Said Mona. All 4 wheels locked simultaneously, and 2 mini braking parachutes shot out of the rear spoiler. Not good, muttered Mona, fighting the fuzzing steering wheel. The Z-12's dash flipped to reveal a backlit readout. A message flashed up on the remote. Remote Maishi Z-12 lockout, the message said. Step away from the vehicle. The car spun to a halt, one wheel dangling over the track's edge. Dido peeked up from the crash position. Are we dead? No, we're locked out. Dido sat up gingerly. Thank God for that. Mona climbed from her car, shaking the speed bus from her head. The situation was fast approaching critical and could only get worse. The gangs would be here in a second, and Miguel couldn't save them even if he wanted to. She turned to the heavens. Stefan was their only chance, up there watching over them like their own private guardian angel. He would come. She knew he would. But there was something else, above Cosmo and Stefan's perch. Several somethings. Dido stumbled from the Z-12. I thought, Vasquez, if we're locked out, who locked us out? Mona pointed to several dozen shadowy figures free-falling towards the solar panels. They did. Overhead in the Crown Factory gantry, Cosmo and Stefan watched the race with a mixture of terror and fascination. At one point, Stefan's phone vibrated. He checked the screen. What's it say? Asked Cosmo. Stefan deleted the text. Everything's fine. See you soon. Stefan watched the race's conclusion through field glasses. Strange? Asked Cosmo. What's strange? Stefan passed across the binoculars. They've stopped. An emergency stop, too. I was sure Mona would punch out through the gate. Why would she stop on the track like a sitting duck? Unless... Cosmo felt a chill across his brow as the blood drained from his face. Unless what? He waited for Stefan to complete the thought. Unless someone else stopped the car for her. Through the field glasses, Cosmo saw Mona pointing to the ceiling above them. He flipped on his back, squinting through the huge panels into the night, sky beyond. Right. Dozens of shadowy figures were hurtling toward midair towards the holes in the roof. Are those things real? Or are they some other creatures that only we can see? Stefan grabbed the glasses, pointing them towards the ceiling. Several black-clad figures swarmed into focus. Combat chutes trailed behind them, and directional gas jets were attached to each heel. Cradled in the figure's arms were chunky assault rifles. There was a company logo emblazoned across each helmet, the same logo that flashed from the satellite. Maishi Corp, said Stefan. Paralegals. They're here for the Z-12. What? All this for a car? Stefan clambered to his knees on his grating, hoisting his overcoat over his head. That car cost billions of dinars to develop. Losing it was a real kick in the teeth for Maishi. I'm guessing this is probably the first time it's been out from under a lead sheath long enough to trace. Stefan lifted the flap of his coat. Quickly, under here, and pray we're not spotted. Stefan crawled under the leather, beneath Stefan's armpit. The coat smelled of hard work and lightning rod flash. Through a gap in the coat, he watched the paralegal swoop gracefully through the gaping slots in the roof, with guiding bursts of gas from their boot jets. They avoided being snared by jutting girders and descended towards the gangs assembled below. One ripped a mini Wolf radio speaker from a Velcro patch on his arm and dropped it to the factory floor below. It bounced a full 10 feet in its plastic casing before rolling along the track to settle on Honcho's feet. He picked it up quizzically. The paralegal's voice blasted from the mesh. The Z-12 nitrocharger is the property of the Maishi Corporation. Step away from the car right now, or you will be sanctioned. This is your final warning. You have 10 seconds to respond. The gang members didn't need 10 seconds. Most spun their cars through a 180 skid, heading back towards the doors. Halfway there, they noticed the three-story assault tanks blocking the exits. Maishi was pulling out all the stops on this one. The gang members began firing whoever they had at the descending paralegals. By then, the 10 seconds were up, and the Maishi lawyers were legally entitled to open fire, which they did, with the most advanced weapons in the world. The first phase was to lay down a cellophane blanket. Fleeing gang members were wrapped as they attempted to escape. Every second shell was a shocker, the charge of which ran across the surface of the cellophane, blasting everything beneath the sticky surface into oblivion, or beyond. The parasites pounced like iridescent wolves, sinking through the cellophane cocoons to settle on gang members' chests. The charge from the shockers was too dispersed to do them any real harm. In fact, it seemed to add to their enthusiasm. The paralegals fell like deadly missiles, spitting pain and death. They hooked onto the stairwells and lower gantries, picking off their prey from above. The gang members never had a chance. Most were unconscious before they even had time to draw a weapon. The rest were hurried into corners by lumbering assault tanks and glued to the walls by cellophane slugs. Stephen poked his head from under the coat. "This is all my fault," he moaned. "The parasites are feasting, and it's all my doing. I gave the Z-12 to Miguel." Cosmo peered down the chaos below. "You couldn't have known. No one could." Stephen's eyes flashed in the live electric shows. "I should have known. For 30 years, I've been running from Maishi police. I know how they operate." He pointed at his lightning rod at a group of parasites. "Too far. We don't have the range. We need to get down there." Cosmo searched immediately at fleeing bodies. "I see them. They're going under the track. They'll be trapped." "I need to get lower," muttered Stephen. "I can't help from here." Cosmo struck the grill with his fist. "Why can't it ever rain when you want it to?" Stephen looked at him strangely. "Rain? Of course. We need water to drive away the parasites. We can do that much at least." "Now you're telling me you can make it rain?" Stephen was on his feet, scrambling towards an access layer. "I can't, but they can." "They?" shouted Cosmo, racing after the Supernaturalists. "Who are they?" "There, in the doorway. You get back to the pigmobile. Try to hook up with Mona and Dito if they make it out." Cosmo still didn't get it. The only thing in the doorway was a 30-foot-high assault tank. Surely Stephen didn't intend to take one of those. Surely not. Cosmo followed Stephen down the ladder. He had no intention of going back to the pigmobile. If Stephen was going after an assault tank, Cosmo was going after him. He was, after all, one of the team. "Paralegals," gasped Mona. "The baddest of the bad." Paralegals were a three-way cross between lawyers, paratroopers, and pit bulls. They were a corporation's last resort, and were only unleashed when there was big money at stake. Mona twigged immediately. They're after the car." She grabbed him Dito by the collar, dragging him off the lip of the track. "Maishi shut the car down. There must be some kind of tracker in the wiring. We need to take cover." "Cover?" croaked Dito, half strangled by his partner's grip. "They're only after the car, and anyone who's seen it or worked on it. They can't risk another corporation stealing Maishi ideas. Everyone here will be taken in for interrogation." "Interrogation? A few pull-out questions and a cup of some coffee?" Mona tutted. "Sure, amigo. A few shockers and a cup of sodium pentothal. We'll be lucky if we can count to 10 by the time they finish." Dito nodded. "Cover. Good idea." They jumped from the assembly line, worming their way through the girders that propped up the line. The asphalt was littered with juice patches and gum. The stink of generations of assorted garbage was sharp in their nostrils. Dito subbed his sleeve, as though they could dislodge the smell. "The shock is ruined. We'll never get the stink out." Mona crawled deeper into the shadows. "At least you'll still have a nose to smell the stink." The shooting started. Huge blobs of liquid cellophane spattered the gang members in their cars. These were followed by searing jolts of electricity. They're getting the tar and spark treatment," said Dito. "I almost feel sorry for them." Honcho pinwheeled past their hiding place, chest lights flashing furiously. A shocker clipped his elbow, sending a charge streaming through his torso. The bulbs below his skin blew out like bullets. A parasite was on him in under a second. Honcho fought on obliviously, screaming his rage at anyone within earshot. Eventually, a paralegal casually plucked him with a cellophane slug. The bulldog leader flapped weakly beneath a layer of rubbery liquid. A low rumbling came from the back of the hall, like a wolf growling in a tunnel. Mona knew every engine signature in the book. "Assault tanks, here to mop up the mess." We have to get out of this place. Ditto's head bobbed in mock happiness. You don't say. They crawled through years of debris, looking for a crack in the Maishi forces, but the paralegals were efficient as well as deadly. Obviously, they had taken a while to survey the building before attacking. Every square inch was covered by a Maishi soldier. They clipped themselves into railings in the upper levels, triangulating their fire to secure the building. In minutes, most of them made their way to ground level and were hurrying any unconscious gang members into the tank's holding pens. Meanwhile, the parasites were sucking the life force with horrifying gusto, glowing bright gold with swirling energy. It was almost too much to bear. A very large part of Mona wanted to crawl into her gutter and go to sleep. She wanted to sleep and dream of peace and happiness. If I get out of here, she thought, I'm giving up for good. Maybe I'll go to South America and maybe earn a living diving for shells. Sure, she told herself. If there wasn't an ounce of seawater left on the planet, that wouldn't bleach her skin. I don't see a way out, puffed Ditto. Mona noticed Miguel being carted away, his features barely recognizable beneath a layer of cellophane. There was a parasite clamped onto his chest. Me neither. Stefan will do something. He won't just leave us here. Or maybe Cosmo can pull another miracle out of the bag. Ditto grimaced. All right, Cosmo. But he's a kid. The creeper thing was a fluke. He's not going to save anyone. Mona rubbed her brow with a knuckle. You're wrong about him, Ditto. There's something about that kid. He's got guts. Brains too. Cosmo will get us out of here. I know he will. Cosmo followed Stefan down a metal ladder, surrounded by a tubular cage. Stefan heard his footsteps clinging on the rungs. I thought I told you to go back to the pigmobile, he whispered, where the two paralegals 40 feet below. Mona and Ditto are trapped down there, Cosmo replied simply. I have to help. No one else is running away, so why should I? Stefan lifted his fuzzplate for a moment. Some of the tension seeped from his shoulders. He was glad to have Cosmo with him. Okay, good. You're a supernaturalist. Big-headed, just like the rest of us. I have to make it to that salt tank on the northeast corner. You can open a hole for me. Open a hole? We get down to the next level and borrow a few Maishi roads. I'll make it around for the tank, and you knock out anyone pointing a weapon at me. Cosmo swallowed. This was war. Stefan was talking about war. What about you? Stefan settled his mask over his face. They'll probably get me, but you can go out the way we came in. A distraction is the only way to save Mona and Ditto. Cosmo summoned resolve from somewhere. Okay, I'll do my best. Let's go. Stefan actually winked behind his red lenses. Good. And if you happen to hit the fuel parasites, I won't be too upset. Cosmo swallowed, trying to dislodge his heart, which seemed to be jammed in his throat, and followed Stefan down the ladder. Stefan's feet seemed to make no sound as they descended, but to Cosmo's ears, his own boots rang out like church bells on the rungs. Below, the two paralegals were enjoying themselves, laying down a saturation cellophane blanket in one corner of the factory. Their rifles bucked as they sent cartridges arcing up towards a group of sweethearts. Fish in a barrel, said one. Candy from a baby, agreed the other. Stefan dropped the final few feet, landing behind the lawyers. Without pause for movie hero quip, he bashed their heads together, and the two men slid to the stairwell without so much as a whimper. Lawyers, grunted Stefan, unclipping their rifles. I like them better when they fought with briefcases. He flipped one over, removing his rappelling rig. Stefan let the straps out to their limits, fastening the rig to his own chest. I'm going in as fast as possible. Hopefully by the time they realize I'm not Maishi Corp, it will be too late. Cosmos dropped to the walkway. His stomach felt as though it was still halfway up the ladder. Stefan thrust a hefty rod into his arms. It's set on cellophane slugs. Aim higher than the target. The shells have a bit of a drop on them. 2 feet above the head should be fine. You have about 20 slugs in this rod, and maybe 30 in the other. Cosmo studied the mystifying array of valves, barrels, and buttons. I can't work this! Stefan spun the rod, jamming the butt against Cosmo's shoulder. Think of it like a computer game. A computer. You don't have to know how it works or even use all the functions. All you need are sights, barrel, and trigger. He pulled a circular optic from the niche in the barrel, using the suction pad to seal it to Cosmo's right eye socket. The sight gives you distance to the target, wind condition, and number of slugs left in the clip. Lie on the walkway and wrap anyone who casts a crooked look in my direction. Cosmo lay down. But what if... No time for what-ifs, interrupted Stefan, securing the repelling spike to a girder. Do your best. Remember, Mona and Dito are depending on us. No pressure, thought Cosmo glumly. Stefan vaulted the safety rail, plummeting towards the factory floor 100 feet below. Cosmo followed his progress with the barrel's rod, the electronic sights feeding magnified images to his right eye. Stefan was descending into a world of madness. Assault tanks rumbled across the floor, backing gang straight fugitives with cannon slugs. Parasites sucked life force from the injured, and gang members struggled in cellophane balloons like souls trapped in hell. The rappelling rig slowed Stefan's drop, but the cord ran out when he was still 20 feet up. His weight popped the reel, and the tall youth plummeted earthward. Fortunately, a squad of paralegals broke his fall. Stefan was out of the rig and running before the moaning stopped. The paralegal made to his feet, staggering after Stefan. Cosmo moved the rod's barrel, and an eyepiece of sight moved correspondingly. He centered the crosshairs on the paralegal's head. They remembered Stefan's advice and raised the barrel a few feet. "Hey, you!" called the lawyer, and Cosmo fired. A slug sped from the barrel, striking him between the man's shoulder blades. A pool of gunk exploded from the tiny pellet, pinning the man to the factory floor. Stefan continued his run, blasting a sea of parasites from his path. Blue orbs rose like party balloons. He was headed directly for an assault tank. But why? What could he achieve? No time for questions, and less for answers. Two more paralegals had noticed Stefan, and shrugging off their parachutes, brought their weapons to bear. Cosmo aimed and fired. Too low. The slug splashed across the floor, 2 feet above the head. Concentrate! Concentrate! He fired again. Two shots in quick succession. The rod jumped in his arms, and the paralegals found themselves entangled in a cellophane envelope. One down on the left, down low. The paralegal got off a slug that hit Stefan between his shoulder blades, knocking him forward a few stumbling steps. Cosmo couldn't take his eyes off the Supernaturalists. Experience saved him. Stefan shrugged off his overcoat. In seconds, the leather garment was sealed tighter than a football. Lucky, thought Cosmo. Lucky. He fired five slugs at the marksman. 3 found their target. Stefan almost reached his goal. 20 yards to the tank. There was a cluster of troops on the gantry 1 floor up. The final hurdle, apart from the tank itself. Stefan fired a few shotguns into the gantry. Most of the paralegals were completely insulated, but 2 had removed their gloves and were holding the rail. They collapsed, smoking. Cosmo covered the rest with a cluster of slugs from his borrowed rod. A red logo flashed in Cosmo's sights, an ammunition clip. He was out of slugs. Cosmo hefted the gun aside, dragging the second rod across by the strap. He quickly swapped eyepieces and focused on Stefan. It was difficult to ignore the surrounding chaos. Parasites were swarming. Gang members were struggling. Chargers circling the factory floor in a futile attempt to find an exit. Cellophane including the floor and walls. Focus, Cosmo ordered himself. One emergency at a time. The tank gunner noticed the Supernaturalists, revolving the turret in his direction. Stefan tried to weave, but the gun barrel was locked on and tracked his movements with fluent ease. Stefan appeared to give up, staying stock still with his hands raised. Through his rod's eyepiece, Cosmo saw the index finger of Stefan's right hand. It was pointing at the tank's barrel. A message. Shoot the barrel. It was a shot with a million, even with the eyepiece. Cosmo stood for a better angle, resting the rod on the upper bar, 2 feet above the barrel's nozzle. No point being delicate about it. Cosmo shot everything in the clip at the tank. At least one found its mark, spiraling into the belly of the tank. At that exact moment, a shotgun shell attempted to punch through the gunge, but it failed to penetrate, dispersing its charge through the tank itself. Anyone who was touching the control pad got enough of a jolt to knock them unconscious, at least for a few minutes. Stefan was on the move again. He leaped high, grabbing the cannon barrel, moving inward hand over hand. Below the main gun was a secondary barrel, stubby, with an adjustable nozzle. A water cannon for crowd control. Of course! Water! Stefan swung again and again, slamming his booted feet against the stopcock. Beneath that valve lay 20,000 liters of pressurized water waiting to be unleashed. The stopcock groaned, jerked, and finally popped, allowing the jet water to burst forth with a powerful jet. It quickly spread across the factory floor. Troops, vehicles, and gang members were scattered before the deluge, but most importantly, the parasites abandoned their prizes, scattering quickly to the upper levels. Anyone that were caught in the torrent fizzed and sparked before groggily joining the rest of their kind. Cosmo turned his empty weapon towards Mona's hideout. The sights revealed that the girl was poking her head out from under the track. Then, taking advantage of the complete confusion caused by Stefan, She tucked it out under her arm and made a run for the ventilation shaft on the nearest wall. None of the Maishi troops saw her go. The pair scampered inside, disappearing into the blackness. There was nothing more Cosmo could do for them now. Meanwhile, Stefan had released his grip on the cannon barrel. He dropped to the factory floor. He was unarmed now and in the open. His antics had drawn the attention of several Maishi paralegals who surrounded him like jackals, Raj trained on the teenager. Stefan raised his arms, fingers spread, but the paralegals were not about to let him come quietly, not after all the destruction he'd wreaked on them. They hit him with at least a dozen cellophane slugs. Each one sprang across his frame like an oil slick. Stefan saw the Supernaturalists go down, fingers clearly clawing the gunk that threatened to squeeze the life from him. On the wall, several parasites sensed his pain and took hesitant steps in his direction, but there was too much water. Cosmo pounded a clenched fist on the railing. There was nothing he could do except watch. "Not shooting, kid," said a voice. Cosmo turned. A Maishi paralegal was standing farther down the walkway, his rod trained on Cosmo's chest. Red crosshairs flickered on Cosmo's jacket. At this range, there was no need to aim high. "Do you have any idea how many dinars it's going to cost to repair that assault tank?" Cosmo shook his head. He didn't speak because he was holding his breath, inflating his chest as far as possible. This would make it easier to breathe, if he got wrapped. The lawyer noticed the tactic. "Hey, kid, don't worry. I'm not going to wrap you. You're going to come peacefully, right?" "Right," said Cosmo warily. "Well, okay then," said the paralegal, pulling the trigger on the rod. A cellophane slug arched across the walkway, hitting Cosmo square in the chest. He watched helplessly as the virus spread along his torso. In seconds, he was inside a malevolent cocoon that squeezed every bone in his body to a growing point. Though the slivered tin of the cellophane, he saw the lawyer lean over him. "Oops," said the man, his voice double the rep. "My finger slipped."